If you're tuning in today, it's probably because you are absolutely exhausted from spending your weekends fighting a garden battle you never seem to win. Believe me, I completely get it. Today, we're going to walk through a practical, scientifically sound method to stop fighting those weeds and actually reclaim your weekends. No gimmicks, no over-the-top hype, just a really straightforward two-step process that actually works.
It's the question we've all asked, right? Why do they always come back? We really have to acknowledge that shared, heavy feeling of defeat. You know the one, looking at a completely overgrown patio or a crowded flower border and just feeling utterly frustrated. You pull, you spray, you scorb your heart out, and then 6 weeks later, it looks exactly like it did before, or honestly sometimes even worse. You start to think that maybe weeds are just this permanent tax on enjoying your own outdoor space. But as you'll see, the problem isn't your work ethic, not at all. It's the methods we've all been taught to use. I want to validate your skepticism right out of the gate here, because there is a very real biological reason why conventional methods always end up failing us. Take hand pulling, for example. It almost always leaves a tiny fraction of the taproot behind, meaning the weed just pops right back up in about 5 days. Branded chemical sprays? Sure, they might kill the weed, but they also wipe out the beneficial microbial life in your soil, the stuff that actually keeps your garden healthy. Boiling water really only scorches the surface, leaving the roots sitting there completely undisturbed. And plain vinegar just burns the leaf tissue. It looks super promising for a few days, but the root easily survives. Basically, we're constantly treating the symptom, not the underlying system.
Well, this brings us to a neighbor of mine named Margaret. 3 houses down, Margaret has been gardening the exact same plot for over 20 years, and her front border never, literally not once, has a weed in it. When I finally went over and asked her for a secret, she didn't show me some wildly expensive commercial product. Nope. Her 20-year secret is probably sitting right in your kitchen cupboard right now. It's everyday baking soda.
Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just baking soda. That sounds way too simple. But understanding the actual biological mechanism is absolutely key here. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. So when it lands on a weed's leaf, it does 2 devastating things all at once. Step 1, it sharply raises the pH right there at the leaf's surface, shoving it into a highly alkaline range that plant cells simply are not built to handle. The cell structure literally starts breaking down almost immediately. Then, step 2 is what actually finishes the job. It triggers severe cellular dehydration. It disrupts the plant's internal water balance, pulling moisture out of the leaf tissue way faster than the plant can replace it. It doesn't just scorch the surface like those other methods. It pulls moisture all the way down the stem and deep into the taproot. But here's a really critical distinction we need to make. Baking soda by itself, just dissolved in plain water, works pretty slowly and very unevenly. Margaret's mixture relies on 3 additional household items, and each one has a very specific scientific purpose. First, you need a splash of white vinegar. This acts as a penetrant, breaking down the waxy coating on the weed's leaf so the baking soda can actually get inside. Then you need ordinary dish soap. This acts as a surfactant, making sure the mixture spreads evenly right across the leaf instead of just beating up and rolling off into the soil. And crucially, you need vegetable oil to slow evaporation. This buys the solution enough time sitting on the leaf to actually finish the job before it just dries out in the summer sun. Okay, moving on to section 1, the exact blueprint, precision measurements for maximum effect. Here is your exact recipe. You might want to grab a pen and jot these down. Start with 1 liter of hot water. You're aiming for around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. It needs to be just hot enough that the baking soda dissolves completely. Now, stir in exactly 3 tablespoons of baking soda. Make sure it is completely dissolved. You do not want any grit left at the bottom. Once that is perfectly clear and dissolved, gently add 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, then 1 teaspoon of dish soap, and finally 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil. You want to mix this gently. We are not looking for a massive foaming reaction here, just a nice, even blend. Once it's all mixed, go ahead and pour the entire solution into a standard hand pump sprayer. All right, so you've got your mixture. Now we really need to talk about the application, because these few rules are the difference between this working brilliantly and barely working at all. First, only apply this to dry weeds on a completely dry day. Go ahead and check your local forecast right now to ensure there's absolutely no rain expected for at least 24 hours. Rain will just wash all your hard work right down the drain. Second, timing is everything. You want to spray in the late afternoon or early evening. Never ever spray in the middle of a hot sunny day, because that direct midday sun will just evaporate the solution way before it penetrates the leaf. Finally, adjust the nozzle on your sprayer.
You want a direct stream, not a fine mist. You need to really soak those leaves.
I need to pause right here and give you a very honest warning. This mixture is entirely non-selective. It does not know the difference between a pesky dandelion and your absolute prize-winning roses. It will severely damage anything green it touches, and yes, that includes your lawn grass. So if you're treating weeds near your flower beds, borders, or grass edges, you absolutely must shield your nearby plants. Grab a piece of cardboard or an old plastic sheet and physically block your good plants while you spray the weeds. Please, do not skip this step.
Now, if you apply it safely and correctly, here's the exact timeline you can expect. Let's manage our expectations here. This is not an instant, harsh chemical burn. It is a thorough, root-deep process. Within the first hour, you're going to notice a faint white residue on the leaves. That is totally normal. It just means the baking soda is sitting right where it needs to be. By day 3, you'll see the leaf edges start yellowing and curling inward. And by day 7, the weed is fully dead. If you dig gently at the base, you'll find the taproot has gone completely soft and lifeless. Now, for genuinely stubborn weeds, things like bindweed or ground elder, just give it a second application after 2 weeks to really finish the job. Which brings us to Section 2, Step 2, the missing link, preventing the next generation of weeds.
You see, killing the weeds you currently see is only ever half the job. The reason gardens like Margaret stay clean for 20 years instead of just a fortnight is all about what happens after the weeds are gone. We have to prevent the next generation. Let's break this down by area. For your borders and vegetable beds, once those dead weeds are cleared away, you must protect the soil. Lay down 5 to 7 centimeters of bark mulch or straw. The absolute crucial point here is that this completely blocks the light. Weed seeds are sitting in your soil right now, just waiting for a tiny little bit of sunlight to germinate. If you block that light with a thick layer of mulch, you stop the next generation before it ever even gets the chance to start growing.
Now, what about patios and paths? This is the little detail that truly transforms patio maintenance. Once you've cleared the cracks, get your hands on some dry sand and some dry baking soda. You want to mix them at a ratio of 8 parts sand to 1 part baking soda. Then, simply brush this dry mixture straight into the gaps and joints of your patio slabs. What this does is create a slightly alkaline, low-moisture environment right in the cracks. Most weed seedlings simply cannot establish roots in an environment like that. Just one application of this dry sweep typically lasts a full season.
Let's look at the real payoff here, because this is where you actually reclaim your time. If you use conventional methods, pulling, boiling water, temporary chemical sprays, you might spend a grueling 40 hours a season on your hands and knees fighting weeds that just keep coming right back. By switching to this 2-step method, that time drops to under 4 hours per season. And most of that is just the initial treatment and maybe a couple of quick 10-minute check-ins with the sprayer during peak summer. That is a massive, massive release. I really want to leave you with Margaret's philosophy today. She told me, a garden isn't supposed to be something you're constantly at war with. It's supposed to be something you get to enjoy. If you've been fighting your patio and your borders for years, I really hope that lands with you as nicely as it did with me. It is time to put the heavy tools down, stop fighting the symptoms, and actually just enjoy the outdoor space you've worked so hard for.
So I have a quick question for you to end our time today. Which weed gives you the most trouble in your own garden? Is it bindweed? Maybe dandelions? Ground elder? Drop a comment below and let me know. I really do read every single one of them. And hey, if you found this explainer helpful and you want more practical, no-nonsense guides just like this, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you a very peaceful, weed-free weekend in your garden.